What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show, and today we're doing it classic Spites Corner style. We're out on a motorcycle, talking motorcycle news. We're bringing the Ducati out, which is a V-twin Italian sport bikey thing, to talk about a Japanese parallel twin cruisery thing, because we have news from Kawasaki that they are bringing back the Eliminator, and they're bringing a 450cc version to the States. Let's hit the road and talk about it. Now, as we're gearing up here, I would like to point out, this is the only time I'm probably going to mention it in this video, because I could talk all day about this. I really am bummed that I don't have some Harley news to counteract this this awesome Japanese cruiser news, because, you know, the mid-year launch happened. It was the big boy CVOs, and nothing for the beginner rider out there, which is a real bummer. I would love to see Harley compete in this market segment, and that's not to say that they won't, but it's starting to get busy. There's a lot of options now, which is great. More options for beginner riders is good. And now let's get out and talk about the newest option from Kawasaki. Whoa, now hold up. Before we get too far into this one, I need to take a second and shout out our sponsor for today's video, AG1. Now, I know some of you out there might be a little skeptical of stuff like this, and I was too until AG1 reached out and sent me some to try. I've been drinking this stuff for weeks now, and within the first few days, I was sleeping better, and it helped me stay focused, which is something that's super important when you're out on a motorcycle. Beyond that, it has probiotics that have helped my gut health, because believe it or not, a diet of cheeseburgers and beer isn't the world's healthiest choice. AG1 is quick and easy. You just add 1 scoop to some water, stir it, or shake it if you're fancy, Mr. Bond, and then down the hatch. AG1 is a quick and easy habit that can help improve your life. 1 scoop, 1 minute each day, every day. Click that link down below and get a 1-year supply of their immune-supporting vitamin D3K2, which I know sounds like a droid in Star Wars, but trust me, it's worth it, and the 5 free travel packs with your first order. I promised I wouldn't rep a product that I didn't stand by, and AG1 has been a huge help for me. Click that link down below and see how AG1 can help you feel better today. Now, let's get out there and talk about that new Eliminator. Okay, now, I know people are going to kind of laugh when I say that I'm genuinely excited about this motorcycle, but I am. Not because I'm going to go run out and buy an Eliminator, but because it's another option for the new rider who's looking for a cruiser, which honestly, outside of the Rebel 500, I don't really see a great beginner cruiser entry point. I think that the Rebel 300 is a little bit lame, especially in the States. Don't get me wrong, it's a great bike, but I don't know, it's not, I don't see it as like a great beginner cruiser. It's like, the Rebel is this weird platform, man. It's a very bizarre motorcycle. It doesn't ride like a cruiser, it doesn't handle like a cruiser, and yet it looks like a sporty, and people can modify it like a sporty, and it has that sort of energy, and I really like it, but I don't understand it. it's an odd platform, but it's a great platform. Now, the Eliminator. So we saw about a month ago in I forget which show it was, but there was a Asian motorcycle show where Kawasaki unveiled the 400 Eliminator, and the question mark was whether or not it was going to come to the States. Essentially what it is it's a cruiser motorcycle built on the Ninja 400 platform, which, if you haven't ridden a Ninja 400, it's actually a really fun motorcycle. I really like the Ninja 400. It's a ton of fun. Around town, around a racetrack, wherever you can get a Ninja 400, they're fun. And they're cheap and they're light, and you can get into them for nothing. It's a perfect beginner platform for anybody looking for that sport bike aesthetic. And it's great to see that Kawasaki is bringing the Ninja into the cruiser space with the Eliminator. Now, it's making like 47 horsepower and 28 foot-pounds of torque. It's going to weigh under 400 pounds, which is perfect for that platform. I think that the 400 Eliminator, personally, I think it's a good thing that they're not bringing that one to the States. Now, the good thing here is, instead of just skipping us entirely, what they're doing is they're boring out the 400 and they're making it a 450. Kind of wonder why they're not just going straight for 500, but my guess is that they're gonna like test it out in this market and then see if they can bring it out into Europe or something like that. It would be very weird for Kawasaki to have, for the States only, a 450cc motorcycle, and then for the rest of the world have them on the 400s. That seems very odd to me. Now, we don't know exactly what they're doing to this motor to make it 450 cc's. We don't know if they're like extending stroke or they're extending bore. My guess is they're gonna go for more bore. That's the easier way to do it. You just bore out the cylinder, re-sleeve it, and then call it a day. You don't have to rebuild the top end that way, and that would be good. And especially in a cruiser platform, having more bore means more torque, and you want more torque. This gives me an opportunity to talk about that Ninja 400's power delivery. It's very peaky. It has more torque than something like an R3, which is an insanely peaky parallel twin. You really got to rev the balls off of that thing to get it to go anywhere. But the Ninja, it's not a particularly torquey motor, and you come to cruisers for a torque first experience. Don't get me wrong, there are some horsepower heavy motorcycles in the cruiser space, looking at UV Max, looking at UD but you're not going to put a beginner on either of those. So having a torquey motorcycle that's comfortable is really nice. Now, there are 4 different variants that we've seen in CARB paperwork. And my understanding is that it's A, B, C, and D. Literally, it's 450A, 450B, 450D, 450C. Did that out of order. If there are those 4, chances are what you're looking at is you're looking at standard, you're looking at SE, which is their like upmarket version. I'll have details on screen showing what the differences are between the 400 or the 450 and the 450 SE. And then most likely you're looking at non-ABS 450 and then non-ABS 450 SE. That's the only thing I can guess, unless there's like a turbo low seat height version. Because Kawasaki does actually still offer motorcycles without ABS, which personally I think is cool, but on a beginner bike, I kind of think everybody should probably have ABS. The option to turn it off, sure, but you should probably have it just to get started. You're not really going to save all that much cash. So bringing out a beginner cruiser in the year 2024, it's actually kind of an interesting time to do it because there's not a ton of options. It used to be you could go out and get all kinds of really great choices for your beginner cruiser because Harley Davidson was all over it. They had the Iron 883, they had the Street 500, they had the Street 750, they had the Street 750 XGA, the Street Rod, which was kind of like a sporty, cruisery thingamajig. You have the Scout 60, which is kind of a beginner cruiser, kind of. And then you've got your options from Japan, the Rebel 300 and 500, namely. You have the Honda Shadows, which I completely forget their existence all the time. I still forget to this day that Honda makes the Shadow 750. I'm sorry, I completely forget it exists. It's an entirely forgettable motorcycle. And Suzuki has the C50T. So you have some choices, but you don't really have choices in that sort of sporty cruiser aspect. The only other option, really, to my knowledge, is the Vulcan S. And this is the only time I'm going to pay a compliment to the Vulcan S. It handles really, really well. It dips into corners great. It's a genuinely surprising ride. I am kind of in awe of how well it handles for a sporty cruiser. But other than that, I hate it. I think it's so ugly, and I think that it sounds terrible. There's a guy on the Discord server who has one, and occasionally I hear sound clips of it, and it makes shivers run down my spine. It's the most generic sounding parallel twin ever. Now, the 450 is going to sound like a generic parallel twin, but the beauty of it is it's going to be tucked into this like sporty looking package, and it's also going to be dirt cheap. Oh my god, it's going to be dirt cheap. I'm expecting this thing to come in like sub $5,500. I would expect you to be able to buy a version of this motorcycle for $5,500, maybe like 58 with some optional extras if they want to throw those in there. That's a great price. In fact, I think that would undercut the Royal Enfield. We don't have details on the Royal Enfield Super Meteor 650's price here in the States because they actually haven't done the launch. I think that's coming up later in the summer. But we don't have price details. However, the prices of the Continental and the Interceptor are around about low to mid sixes. I don't remember off the top of my head. I'll have those numbers on screen. So I would expect the Super Meteor to either be the same or slightly more expensive, because it does kind of seem like cruisers end up with this cruiser tax, and that is a bit of a bummer. What I see here from Kawasaki is they're basically just putting their hat in the ring, and I think if they can get this to be more bore than stroke, they can basically make it be a nice torquey version of this parallel twin. And you know what? I don't expect them to do it. I really don't. But if they throw a 270-degree crank in there, oh boy, then you're talking about a motorcycle that really is going to be the new king of the beginner bike market space. Even if it doesn't have the 270, honestly, I think this is a great choice if you're looking to get into motorcycling and you want a reliable, just simple, enjoyable motorcycle to ride. Kawasaki, you know what? I dog on a lot of their motorcycles, but I have a KLR 650 and I have tried to murder it and it won't. I literally neglect it for months at a time and the thing just works. That's Kawasaki in a nutshell. All of their bikes just work, man. Now, I am going to reserve my stamp of new best beginner cruiser until I actually ride the thing, and we're not going to get it until 2024 at the earliest. So in the meantime, what I'm looking at is Royal Enfield is going to have free reign of the beginner market for about a year, roughly, until the Eliminator starts hitting the showroom floors. But, you know, it's possible that Eliminator is going to come in under budget for the Royal Enfield and over-deliver in terms of power, because the Ninja 400 is making the same power as the Royal Enfield 650 does. The real thing that the 650 is going to have is it's not going to be a plasticky motorcycle. Royal Enfield does steel tanks. They do metal parts. Aside from their master cylinders, which are they're so bad, they're the rest of the bike, the package is really, really nice. So if you're looking for just something you can beat the absolute crap out of, the Eliminator is going to be your choice. However, I do have a feeling that people are going to be drawn to the classic look and the classic feel of the Royal Enfield. Also, it's worth pointing out that the Royal Enfield is going to sound better. It's a bigger motor, it's the 270-degree crank, it's just going to sound like a cruiser, which you want if you're coming into that cruiser market segment. You don't want it to sound like a lawnmower. You want it to sound like a cruiser. It's, you know, part of the reason why I keep coming back to V-twins, even all these years later. I started on a V-twin, now I own one. There's something about that V-twin note that it signals to me and to a lot of cruiser riders that this is a motorcycle, you know? And that feel, you're not going to get that out of the Eliminator unless they do a 270-degree crank. And even then, the 270 doesn't feel quite like a V-twin. The KTM is the closest. The Yamaha, nah, it doesn't feel that way. Now, I said I wasn't going to mention it earlier, but you give me 20 minutes and I'm talking about cruisers, I have to swing back to Harley Davidson. They need to answer this. They need to have an answer for this. The 975, it's not the beginner cruiser they think it is. It is no beginner bike. It is too fast. It doesn't matter if it has rain mode. I've only known one human being on the face of the planet, Magic Toaster, who started on a, like, essentially a super bike and kept it in rain mode. Everybody who says they do that, show me, or I don't believe you, because it's one of those things where it requires so much self-control that it's basically superhuman. So I really want to see them take either the badged motorcycles, which, to be fair, they're not really cruiser style. They're basically these kind of like upright, lightweight, naked bikes. I'd like to see them take one of those and turn it into a cruiser, or preferably take the Rev Max, turn it into a 500, and give us a Sportster 500 that frankly is going to be faster than any other Sportster that was ever made with the V-twin in it, or the air-cooled Evo. A 500 from Harley and the Rev Max platform is actually going to be a fast motorcycle. And if you don't believe me, the 975, oh boy, does that bike boogie. It's a very quick bike. And you know what? I spoke, this is going to be a whole other video that I'm alluding to here. I spoke with the lead engineer of Rev Max, and they understand that there needs to be some beginner option. That's a thing that needs to happen. These are my words, not his, but this is what my understanding is. They know that this market segment exists. They know that the 90 horsepower Rev Max is not a great place for people to begin on. I don't know if they're going to answer these bikes anytime soon. I really want them to. I really want them to, and I want them to do it in such a way that it's like 8 to 10 grand. That's still a lot for a beginner bike, but when you look at something like the Ducati Scrambler 62, 400 cc's, it's like 6 or 8 grand, and then you have the other Scramblers, the 803s. Those are on the border of a beginner bike, and they're like 10 to 12 grand. Okay, yeah, sure. An 8 to 10 grand Sportster with the 500 motor, perfect, call it a day. And then you're really dealing with an American answer to all of these nice beginner options from Japan. But that is going to wrap things up for me today. What do you guys think about the Eliminator, the 450, the 400, and I mean, tell me if you don't think that this is the perfect time to be a beginner rider out there. I mean, literally, I could not think of a better time to get on a motorcycle. There's so many great options out there, and frankly, I'm a little jealous. I'm not gonna lie. They're like the small budget bikes, they're getting so good now. They're getting so good. Back in my day, in 2016, in 2016, there weren't a ton of really great options, I'm not gonna lie, and they were expensive. Now you can get into bikes for so cheap. You can get into bikes for so cheap nowadays. Let me know what you think down below about the Eliminator and what you might like to see from Harley Davidson as an answer to all of this, because of course I have to bring everything back to Harley Davidson. And while you're down there, don't forget to check out our sponsor for today's video, AG1. I am a serious devotee of the green juice now. After it helped me improve my sleep literally in like a couple of days, I'm on the green juice train, baby. I value my sleep almost higher than I value my motorcycles. So do go ahead and check them out if you'd like to make yourself feel a little bit better between cheeseburger binges. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. See you later.